When you walked in, it was just a beautiful building. Beautiful mahogany that was kept up so nicely. It was, polished. There was the old-fashioned printing press, and it was a very quick process, very noisy and loud.
When that press started to roll,
it rumbled.
You could feel it.
On the third floor.
So the first thing you'd hear walking up the steps was the clatter of the keys.
There was a blue cloud in the newsroom.
Oh yeah,
because everybody smoked. The Tribune, when it closed, its readers lost the personal touch.
And that was decades and decades ago. And still people will say, I really miss the News Tribune.
Who has a story for me? Pastor Jan? Very nice. All right, let's quiet down and listen as Pastor Jan shares. Okay, tell us who you are.
Try not to cry. I'm Pastor Jan Davis, and I was born and raised and grew up in Beaver Falls. And my parents were somewhat well known in the community because my dad was a sports editor in town. The News Tribune has a very, very special place in my heart. I basically grew up there, and I had a lot of fun there. My dad worked at the News Tribune for over 50 years. He started out as just a reporter. He did everything when he was at the Tribune. He did several columns, council meetings. My dad, even to this day, is known for kids that have, they hit a home run in the championship of the Little League. They still have the article that my dad wrote. I was daddy's girl, and I think he instilled in me, and helping your neighbor, and just a love of community.
Everybody knew him in Beaver Falls, and everybody knew that he was, he was with the News Tribune. I mean, he was just it. Joe Tronzo in the News Tribune. Didn't matter about the editor, Tom Blount. Didn't matter about Mr. March or anybody else. It was Joe. It was Joe Tronzo.
It was a small newspaper. There were less than 10 desks in the editorial. So I don't know. It was family.
That was sort of our beginning. So
that was our beginning. The first time I remembered seeing Janet, I was intimidated by her. Knockout, drop dead gorgeous, still is.
What was your first story?
At the News Tribune, Conley's Motel in Big Beaver, there was a fire there.
My very first assignment, the managing editor called me to his office. He says, I want you to go out in the street and do man in the street interviews. Give me a story by 5. Oh, it was always a buzz. It was always a buzz. Somebody over in the corner would have a great hint or lead, and we'd all go over and encourage him or her, bounce ideas, how to get more info, and we all encourage each other, if that makes sense.
And as I was walking into the bank, 4 guys are running out, taking off their masks. They just held up the bank. And I got to write 2 stories, including Tripodi gets story at gunpoint. And that's me with the nice sideburns and a full head of hair. We were married in June of '72.
Well, actually, the first day back, we went down the Ohio River.
That's right.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
We covered the flooding. Just saying I was a reporter for the News Tribune opened doors for me. There were people who were, I'll talk to you. It was embraced.
I delivered papers when I was 7 or 8 years old. I had 56 papers, and I started at the Broadhead Hotel, walked down 7th Avenue. I delivered all the stores their papers. Beaver Falls because of the steel mills, everybody was working. All the stores on 7th Avenue were full. There was always, things to do, activities. There was a lot of good work, for a lot of people. There was just banks on every corner, and it was just, of course, the News Tribune was right here.
I believe the News Tribune was the heart of Beaver County. It was more important to the managing editor to have local news in it than national. It was looked up to and read by almost everybody I knew. And I was there until the day that it died. It was a normal day. We got in there at 7 o'clock, like always, and I was working on a story for, it was a local school board corruption story, something about handing out construction work to a family member. So I was concentrated on that, and then about 9:15, at the ME, Jim Stoner came in and announced that there was going to be a company-wide meeting. Everybody was going to meet at 10 o'clock, and he says, go back to work, but be there at 10. I was nervous because 6 weeks prior to that, we had been, the editorial department, the reporters, had been planning to unionize. We thought this meeting was about that. We thought that somebody leaked or ratted, but it wasn't about that at all. It was about the sale of the newspaper.
The word got out to the community before the people that work there knew. My mother's calling me at work saying the Tribune got bought out by the Times, and people were coming in the store, and my mother kept saying, your dad doesn't know. Your dad doesn't know. They're having a meeting.
We all crammed into the conference room, and there was way too many people there. And then the owner came in. I had never met him before or seen him before. Everybody tried to calm people down. Jim Stoner was saying, calm down, be quiet, be quiet. But he couldn't get their attention. He was a mild-mannered man. He couldn't get their attention, so he ended up, Jim put up on top of a desk, and then Jim yelled, shut up. The room fell quiet, and he started addressing us. Like I said, he was a quiet man, so we couldn't always hear what he was saying, but the words came through that the News Tribune, as of that morning, had been sold to the rival Beaver County Times. And then everybody got quiet. I don't know how to describe it. It was like a phone call that a family member had died or something. Everybody was crestfallen. And I thought everybody would walk out. I thought that everybody would just, well, last day, I'm done, let's go. But we all stayed. We usually stayed until 5. We stayed until 7 that night. Make sure the last edition was perfect. Everybody's offering condolences to everybody else. And what are your plans going to be for the future and so forth. And all of a sudden, his name was Alex. He was a young photographer, just started there. He yelled that he found a way onto the roof. So we all went up on the roof. It was mostly editorial. I don't think there was no management, and there was very few press. And we just stood up on the roof and looked out. I'd never been up there before. Pretty tall building for me, being from the country, looking down over the sides and seeing the traffic and so forth. So Joe, being older, was one of the last people up on the roof because it wasn't an easy climb, steep stairs. He drug a concrete block over to the wall beside 7th Avenue. He stands up on a concrete block. He says, "Hey, hey." So he got our attention, and then he started talking to us. He saw we were all hurting. It wasn't just a loss of a job. It was a loss of a vital organ to the community. And he knew that, and we knew that, and somehow put it into perspective for us so that we could go on. It's like going to a funeral home and offering condolences and trying to support the person that had a loss.
There was a mourning period in the community. I mean, it was horrible. It was pervasive. There was a sadness and there was an anger about it too. There was a loss.
It was very devastating. It was very devastating because the Times only took one person, and that was my dad. And a lot of them were out of work, and a lot of them, went back to school and, did other things. And the building just went to pot. That beautiful mahogany, the windows were broken. There was a lot of vandalism and things like that. And it kind of saddened me that, things, and maybe a little anger, that the person that bought it didn't keep it in better condition.
That's a place you can point to and say, that's where we met. And I don't know if a lot of people
can do that.
I snuck in there actually many years ago, and it was like, this hurts. This hurts. People were accustomed to how the News Tribune treated them as a reader and them as a person.
This is our paper.
Because it was an iconic building, people had all these great memories of the building. And like iconic buildings, when they sort of fall apart, then it sort of takes a little piece of the city away with it as well. I think having a daily newspaper was just one of those elements of we are a significant city. We're a center for retail shopping, we have industry, and then we have the other things that go along with that, like a daily newspaper. So for all those reasons, we thought, well, let's give it a try. Let's see if we can't get the thing renovated. Even though it's been empty for over 30 years, it's reclaimable because it's just so sturdy. Christine Kroger was working on this idea of a children's museum for the city and began the organization called Neighborhood North. So at that point, we began conversations between Christine and her board about this becoming a site for a children's museum.
We opened in November of 2022, about a year and a half ago.
3, 2, 1, let's do this!
And so in that time, we've welcomed 7,500 people. I was thinking how we got started. I was like, it was like this group of people visioning about it. Like, wow, that was so long ago.
Oh, yes, I forgot. Let me just eat some fish. Okay. Here's to the orange.
Out of all the good things that we could be doing here. Why the Children's Museum? I think healthy people are connected people, right? So my passion is, in particular, family engagement and what that means to them and how that impacts kids' learning. I think that sets the foundation of what learning will look like as a communal activity.
Thank you so much. I was looking for this everywhere.
And I can see that when we give kids opportunity to be creative, to have open-ended play, to do things where they can thrive in the way that they learn and that's developmentally appropriate to them, that ability to discover those things about themselves and to achieve in different ways, it trickles up into other aspects of their lives. It's been remarkable, and I think, as a proof of concept, we feel that we've been really successful this first year and feel like we're ready to go into this next year and start working towards the Tribune Building.
You can't renew a grand old city by tearing down all its old buildings.
I think there's still like a very tangible history here, right? It roots us in something, a bigger narrative that we're a part of. All of those things of the past could really enhance the ways in which we move into the future. If we simply wipe it away, I think we might regret that in the years to come. We might forget our history a little bit too easily.
I love that building. There's these really high ceilings and really beautiful windows, and the light that comes in is gorgeous. I think the built environment informs how you kind of learn. It's historic and has so much connection to so many people. And it's on the campus with the library. And so I think it can kind of anchor the city in this cultural district in a way that's really interesting.
A lot of people, when they think of revitalization, they think of, businesses and opening manufacturing again and getting jobs and opportunities for people. But it's more than that. And I think that this is addressing the needs that I think is overlooked sometimes with revitalization, more of a social way, so that we're able to build those relationships, repair the relationships that have been broken throughout the years and the generations that are still here in a constructive, educational way.
The newspaper itself was, I think, an important part of Beaver Falls history. I think people are rooted in the narrative of that story because they have family members who worked there. I think imagining what's possible there is quite easy for me to do.
First of all, I think that the idea of a children's museum in an old town speaks a lot. It speaks to the future, and that it brings kind of hope for the future of Beaver Falls too. And I think that putting it in a place that has such a storied legacy of being for the community and about the community just really makes sense.
I would hope that going through that museum would be something that these kids would remember, just like we remember.
I basically grew up there, and I had a lot of fun there. And I would wish that for my grandkids and my great-grandkids. A lot of laughter, a lot of love, a lot of kids learning and growing in that building.
I think that's a vital thing for the area, especially Beaver Falls, but the entire community, the entire area.
There's a lot there. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of legacy, and that anything that can sustain or enhance that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.